welcome to yet another episode of the Sustainability and Climate Podcast. As usual, I am your favorite host, Labake, and I am so excited that we're now in video podcast because I feel like you can see my face when I say that. and why I'm the favorite. And we have your other favorite, I guess.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to, as I always say, another episode of the Sustainability and Climate Podcast. I remain the one and only, your favorite, the guest favorite, the one with a wonderful closing statement, the one who the viewers have voted to be their favorite, the one who the viewers
Where did they vote?
They love hearing his voice. Ladies and gentlemen, I remain your one and only, the indomitable, the amazing, the awesome, Oluwatobi. Welcome to another episode.
Can everybody just let him know he's not? He's not the favorite. But yeah, welcome everybody. How are you? Did you enjoy our first visual episode?
Yeah.
We'd love to hear your feedback. We'd love to hear kind of your comments, what you would like to see us do more of, maybe a little bit less of us kind of talking with our hands or me. Or more of that. How was your week, Toby?
Yeah, my week was great. Busy as usual.
Yeah.
Can't complain. It was my birthday over the weekend. I had an amazing time.
How was your birthday? Happy birthday, Toby.
Thank you. Yeah, it was good. It was a good one. I would have said you should sing, but you don't have a good singing voice, but just the happy birthday is fine. But yeah, it was a good one.
You would actually eat your words because I actually am a singer, but we're not going to sing on this podcast.
Singer, songwriter, co-host, is their title. No, but
so
yeah, it was good. It was good. Happy to sing another year and looking forward to what this new year holds for me. And yeah, I'm good. How about you? How is Lagos treating you?
Lagos is good. I am in Lagos and it's good. It's a break from the cold in London that I was a couple of weeks ago, but it's nice. Nothing special to report. The Global Citizens Move Africa Festival is coming up soon. I hope everybody's earned their tickets and will be attending. That should be very interesting. That should be fun. But yeah, I've had a good week celebrating Toby's birthday. I feel like a co-host birthday is both our birthdays. Happy birthday.
But no. I take that back. The co-host is not, because you did your birthday and you enjoyed it alone. You didn't bring me into the equation. But it's all right.
You didn't invite me to your celebrations either. Don't let's
But anyways, yes, moving on.
Moving on quickly because we have a very, very exciting guest on the podcast today. She is awesome, super, super exciting. But before we jump into that, we want to talk a little bit about what's in the news and what's happening. I know everybody has been following the news.
Yeah.
And what's happening in the world. A lot is happening in the world. We're not going to touch on all of those things, or at least I'm not going to touch on all those things. The one thing I do want to highlight though is, with the change of administration in the US, there's been a lot of withdrawals from certain global climate commitments. And one that I've just recently seen that, to be honest, has been a little bit shocking to me, I'm not going to lie, is that Jeff Bezos, who is the founder CEO of Amazon, is it still the CEO, or I think he actually stepped down as CEO?
I know he's just there, but I don't know his title.
He's the founder of Amazon, Jeff Bezos. His $10 billion Earth Fund cut ties with climate group ESBTI, which is the Science-Based Targets Initiative, which is kind of a leading kind of target-based initiative that companies kind of follow, provides like guidance and directives, science-based directives for kind of a climate transition. But the $10 billion Earth Fund has pulled their support from this group, which is, it's disappointing, to put it in a very diplomatic way. It's very disappointing. We hoped to see kind of stronger commitments from some of these companies that had shown that this is something that they were committed to. But I think seeing all of these different companies pulling out is um, showing that the commitments were superficial. Um, and yeah, so this is a bit of disappointing news. But yeah, what do you think, Toby? Are you going to be looking for an alternative to Amazon?
There's a song coming to my head, yeah, but I don't want to sing it out. But it's just so. It's a Nigerian soundtrack for those who watch Nollywood back in the day, the old Nollywood. There's this
Super
song.
Story?
Iye me, oh
No,
iye
no,
me.
no.
No, it's sad. It's sad.
Yeah.
10 billion is not money you can, you see. Okay, talking about Nigeria, back in the day, they always, in this old Nollywood, like you can be walking on the road and you just see money inside Ghana must go or a bag, and you think that your luck has shined on you, right? But 10 billion, to pull out 10 billion, it's I don't know. I'm just lost for words. And I think it would be good for us to go bring someone from SPTI to come talk about that,
Right.
and also what the effects of that pulling out of that fund will do. It's just so sad that to see that there's a new administration and companies are pulling out from such climate initiative. I just hope that this will inspire other climate strong organizations or organizations that are big on climate to increase their support to SBTI, because putting out 10 billion is going to have a very huge effect. And it's sad. In as much as you can't control someone on what to do with their money, but if you've made a commitment, you should keep to that commitment. But yeah, we're saying but.
But apparently the SBTI had already started to or put things in effect to step away from the perceived influence of the Bezos Foundation on the SBTI. So I think they were trying to create their own autonomy in a way. And kind of their response, I guess, to this news was saying that they've already been working on other ways to diversify their funding, and they're thinking about and working with other sources. And that the donors don't intervene in their processes to develop these standards. Um, and so I think, I mean, there's always a silver lining, I guess. The Bezos Foundation pulls this fund. I really hope there would be other sources of funding that would step up for the SBTI, because the SBTI standards have, kind of taken shape as, one of the leading standards in the industry. And so it would be a shame to kind of see it change. But yeah, I thought that was very interesting to see him pull up in light of the administration change. I wonder what the next few years would look like in light of the administration, the new administration, and that's where I'll put that.
It is well. I don't want us to dwell on this atmosphere, and so to lighten things up, Labake, can you please do the honors to introduce and bring in our guest on today's podcast? It's going to be an interesting conversation, guys. We have an amazing guest. Labake, take it away.
Toby is really in a singing mood. So our guest today is another chief sustainability officer of a global organization. She is the chief sustainability officer of Ingka Group, Karen Pflug. And Ingka Group is the largest retailer of IKEA. And so, as the chief sustainability officer, she leads the team that executes IKEA's sustainability strategy. Throughout her career, she's led, kind of major business transformation across a number of organizations. She was the CEO of Ikano Insight in the UK. She was global quality manager at Range and Supply. She's held a number of senior leadership roles in brands such as Nike, Reebok, an Australian sportswear brand, Skins, not to be confused with Skims. She was also recognized as a Time 100 top business leader in climate, highlighting her commitment and contributions to accelerating climate action. She is a leading voice in sustainability globally, and Karen Pflug has given us some of her time today to share her wisdom, to share some of the work that they're doing at Ingka Group and IKEA in meeting their sustainability targets and smashing them, which they have. Their sustainability report has just come out. We can share a link to that as well for you to go read all the amazing things that they're doing. And teaching us a little bit about keeping to our sustainability commitments and being, environmentally conscious consumers. So yeah, stay tuned for our episode in conversation with Karen Pflug.
Welcome to the podcast, Karen. I'm sure our listeners will have a lot to learn from you on today's episode. Before we continue with our question, there's this question I love to ask. Who is Karen?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the podcast. Looking forward to our conversation. That's a big, deep and wide question, of course, of who I am. But you can probably tell by my accent, I'm from the north of England in the UK. I had the pleasure of living in many countries around the world for my work, ranging from New Zealand and Australia, Hong Kong, and then a few countries in Europe. Currently based in the Netherlands, in Leiden, and I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer of Ingka Group, which is the largest retailer of IKEA. And I've been doing that role for 3 years now. And I've been at the IKEA Group for over 10 years in various roles. And we're the thing that attracts me, keeps me energized, and keeps me really loving my work and loving working for IKEA is the fact that we're such a values-based company. And we've really sort of ingrained sustainability. It is one of our core values. So it's a big part of our why, which is to create a better everyday life for the many people. That's what drives us and gets everybody up in the morning at IKEA. And also then when it comes to sustainability, I was standing on the shoulders of giants when I came into this role because there are so many great people. It's been a legacy of really ingrained in our DNA from the start. We're over 80 years old, and our founder was very much about being resource smart, never having any waste, producing great products that were truly affordable for everybody to afford. Great design should be for the masses, even before sustainability was a thing, sort of decades ago. So that gives me plenty of energy that we've got that built into our why, which is then close to my why, which then makes it much more enjoyable to do my job.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that quick introduction. So we're just going to jump straight in to maximize our time on the podcast. Ingka Group actually just released their sustainability report for 2024. And I just want to pull out some, of the numbers and the quick wins, shall I say, of the report. So it says that the company has reduced its climate footprint by 30.1% while growing the business. And it has achieved this while the revenue has increased by 23.7%. It also says that you've achieved 96.6% of electricity in 28 countries being sourced from renewable energy, and about 41.1% of customer home deliveries are made by zero emission vehicles, right? Which is awesome. Congratulations on those wins.
Thank you.
But I think my question then is more so, what are some of the biggest challenges and lessons that you've learned in achieving these great numbers, in balancing business growth and sustainability commitments? And how do you plan to maintain this momentum as you work towards your net zero goal?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of work went into that report, so I'm glad you're reading it, and it's been a pleasure to be able to publish the numbers. Of course, we've got lots and lots of learnings as well as the wins. There always are. And we've been doing this report for quite a long time now, and then specifically on the climate numbers, we have seen steady progress over the years. We set the baseline. Those numbers were from the baseline set in 2016. We're aligned with the Paris Agreement and the science-based targets, which for us is important because it really shows that it's science-led. That excuse me, that the external experts are telling us what we all need to do, and of course we need to halve our emissions by 2030, along with many other businesses and governments and so on as well. So we still, even though the 30% is a great number and we're well on the way, we know we still have plenty to do. And then for us, it's also, even though we talk here about what we call our better planet, we have a fully balanced scorecard, which for us is really important, that it's not just about, okay, the financials and then maybe a few climate numbers, but that we have a holistic view on performance. And we have what we call 4 betters, or our value creation goals. Those numbers came out of the Better Planet. We have better homes, better lives, and better company as well. And for us, the complexity and the challenge is moving all the topics together and not just focusing on one thing or the other, only doing climate, but not looking after refugees or human rights or our circular agenda and so on. So I think that's the learning, is how to juggle the complexity and then to really be able to lead amongst very challenging external environment. If we take the example of the zero emission deliveries that you mentioned, the 41%, of course, we would like that to be higher. It is almost double the previous year, so it is fantastic progress. But much of the reasons why we can't accelerate it even more is actually down to the sort of market forces, sometimes policy in different countries around the world, and just that the whole electrification of the grid is required. And consumers will know this themselves from when they're trying to get solar panels on the roofs of their houses, or if they're also purchasing an e-vehicle as well. It isn't just about buying more trucks and then delivering. It's about the whole charging infrastructure. It's about the payload is different and so on as well. But we're really committed to that one, because it's not just about, of course, reducing our emissions, but it's also about less pollution, local pollution on the ground. And then it makes good business sense, because we will see increasing costs for going into inner cities, for example, with ultra low emission zones in many cities. That's widening and becoming more frequent in the countries where we operate. So it actually will save us money in the long run, as well as being better from a sustainability point of view.
Also, it's great to see these numbers, and I can't wait to take time to study it and to dig deep into the report. And now, talking about challenges, right? What have been the biggest challenges and the lessons you've learned in balancing the business growth with sustainability commitments? And how does Ingka Group plan to maintain this momentum as it works towards its net zero goals?
Yeah, I think we are lucky. We're really fortunate that we can think long-term in generations. We're privately owned, and that means we can think long-term. It also means we have a highly dedicated senior leadership team, and also our board are very ambitious on this agenda, and it's really ingrained into our why, as I mentioned before. So then it makes the conversations about investments a lot easier.
Okay.
We also have an Ingka investments arm. I'm super fortunate to have this as part of our sort of portfolio, because originally set up to ensure the long-term financial resilience of IKEA. We now, almost everything that we invest in is looked at through the ESG lens and really looked at through the sustainability. So we've committed up to 2030, 7.5 billion in renewable energy investments, and we've done 4.2 billion now. We also have just announced an investment in 1 billion going forward on the circular agenda, which is super important for us. We already have circular capabilities with mattresses, being able to recycle over 1 million mattresses a year through a joint venture with a mattress company here in the Netherlands that's expanding across Europe as well into different countries. So stopping mattresses going to landfill and so on. So it's about looking at the commercial opportunities, looking at through the lens of what makes good business sense, having clear KPIs that we follow up as well with our business leaders. And I would also say speaking the same language as them. So it's not like, oh, the business carries on as normal.
Yeah.
Sustainability is busy on the side doing their expert things. You know, it's really about integrating it into the business and being super clear that it's everybody's responsibility, and that no matter where you sit in the organization, you can do something. And then in our own operations, things like reducing our waste. We're around 77% of our waste is recycled now, and we obviously want to get that as close as possible to 100. That saves us money as well. And sometimes you can actually even make money about waste sorting, because waste can be a valuable resource for others. And then if we drive energy efficiency in our stores by really being careful how we use our energy more wisely, or we invest in renewable heating and cooling, or the million solar panels we've got on the roofs of our buildings, that yes, is investment in the short term, but long term it actually saves us money as well. So it just makes good business sense.
I completely agree, and I love the idea of incremental growth, right? You mentioned at some point in your response that the number is almost double what it was last year, even though you want it to be more, but I think it shows that incremental growth. So if we're doubling, you know, our wins every year, I think we're on a good path. But I just want to touch on kind of the breadth of your career a little bit. So your career kind of spans different roles in sustainable design, in retail, business transformation. What are some pivotal moments that led you to focus on sustainability? And how has that background kind of shaped your approach as CSO at Ingka?
That's a very good question. I guess we can go all the way back to being a little child in the north of England, actually, I guess, because I was so interested in nature growing up. I used to read nature magazines, and I loved watching Sir David Attenborough was a real hero of mine. So super passionate about that. And then, like many people as a teenager, didn't really know what I wanted to do in life. And I loved the sciences, but I also was creative and loved art as well. So I ended up doing a textile design degree, but it was a science degree as well. So it was a fantastic combination. And I've got a daughter who's 17 now, really sort of going, which way do I go? You know, and it's so hard at that age to decide what you want to do. But for me, it was that perfect blend of being creative, but also being sort of really the technology behind creating something useful as well, that I really wanted people, rather than doing graphic design or art or something where, of course, it's super creative, but I wanted something tangible that was useful. And then my final year thesis was actually around what I called back then in the 90s eco-textiles. And it was in one of the first rounds of being very much in the public eye around the fact that we needed to do something about our choice of materials and resource use. And it was eco-textiles in home furnishings. And then from there, I moved straight from University in Manchester to New Zealand. I wanted to travel, and I got a job with the New Zealand Wool Board. And that was, of course, it's an amazing renewable resource, wool. So I was very much involved in that for many years, natural fibers and so on. And then my work led me to sportswear, and I'm super keen athlete outside of work. I love competing in many different sports. So it was a fantastic to be able to drive design and innovation agenda at Nike and also Adidas Group for a while as well. So there, of course, in sportswear, a lot of synthetic materials are used, but we were at the forefront of looking at how to use recycled materials and also bringing more natural materials into the sportswear world. So to be with a large brand with global reach, just like IKEA has as well, you can touch so many people. So when you make a positive change with a material choice, it means that everybody benefits. You can scale up really well. So I guess it's always been in the background from a personal passion and loving spending time outdoors, and then in designing, working on solving problems and creating products that hopefully people will love to wear and enjoy. I took the responsibility seriously as a designer with the choice of materials and the way things were designed, which is something now with our circular agenda at IKEA we're very passionate about as well. It all starts with the design process and the choice of the materials.
Well, it's glad to see how your career you've just been consistent in terms of what you want to do and knowing what you do from the beginning, and seeing that you are also a huge fan. I guess everyone is a fan of David Attenborough at this point because it just does amazing thing that inspires everyone to continue to play our part in making the world a better place. Now let's talk data and innovation, right? How does data and innovation play a role in advancing the Ingka's group sustainability commitments?
Well, I think it's absolutely critical, of course, because for many years, like many other companies, we would sort of put a stake in the sand and say, this is what we stand for and this is what we're going to get after. And because we're a large global brand that's scrutinized and watched and so on, not only did it mean that it created the momentum internally with all our co-workers around the world, but it also created momentum externally, because if we do something, we can bring many others along with us, and we take that responsibility seriously. But of course, the further you go down the track, the closer we get to 2030 and closer to needing to achieve our ambitions. And if we take climate, then obviously halving our emissions is the key one. Then we need to have data to be able to make much better informed decisions. And as a large company that's grown organically over the years with a complex supply chain around the world, previously a lot of that data has been manual. So we're in the process now of automating that together with our supply chain partners, IKEA, who manages the whole supply chain part as well. That's really high on our agenda. So I think it will only increase the need for data so that we can make data-informed decisions. But we also use a lot of data from our customers. You know, it's super important for us that we understand our customers and what matters most to them, their needs, hopes, and dreams. And we run a survey together with GlobeScan, and we're just about to do a new one now. And our last one showed it's a climate and inequality survey to really understand what our customers and consumers around the world think. Over 32,000 people in 31 countries took part. And the last one showed that, excuse me, 2/3 of the people were surveyed cared deeply about climate change. And in fact, for younger people, it's even higher. And in some countries, it gets to the 80s and 90s. But so many of them don't know what to do. And they see cost as the biggest barrier, or not understanding the most impactful things. And so for us with IKEA, we see that as a big opportunity to help educate and inform. And also we've made a conscious decision. We've always been a cost-conscious brand that wants to side with the many people around the world so everyone can afford good design. But we've also made a conscious decision to make sure sustainable products are not more expensive, so that everybody can afford to have sustainable options, because only then will we really create a movement. One example is our plant-based meals. We've made it lower price than the meat-based alternative. Many people, of course, know us as a furniture company, but we've almost 700 million people eat in our restaurants each year. So if we can help guide people to eat more plant-based meals by making it more affordable, as well as tasty and healthy and so on, then we can drive positive change. Because that is the biggest thing actually an individual can do, is the plant-based meal switch. Don't have to be vegan, but at least nudge it towards more often. So we use consumer data a lot as well, and we need to keep getting more informed, truly listening to our customers.
I've never actually eaten at a IKEA restaurant before. I guess I just get funny. Yeah, I guess
have
now
you
that's...
You need to try it.
Yes, I need to. That's like I really need to try it.
So I'm not quite familiar with the plant-based meals, but their Swedish meatballs was, it was all the rage back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the meatballs are still very popular. Like I say, it's not about making people feel guilty about eating meat, but we do find we have vegetarian options, plant-based mince that you can then make lasagnas and pasta, bolognese and things with. And to be honest, when we make these chili burgers, it's actually my husband that makes them, which have got all sorts of yummy things in them. And we converted it to the plant-based mince recently, and nobody tells the difference. And that, of course, is a fantastic sign for those that are traditionally meat lovers and burger lovers. So, we're having a lot of fun with the plant-based meals, really helping educate and nudge people towards that.
You definitely should try the meals at IKEA. It's part of the whole experience when you go shopping at IKEA.
I just go in there, get my furniture, and I'm out. But now I think I need to.
On your way out, you can get a plant-based ice cream when you're next there.
There you go.
That's the next plan for me. I will.
There you go. There you go. Awesome. So speaking about circularity, because you've touched on it a couple of times in the conversation, and I know that it's a tenet that's quite big with IKEA sustainability strategy. Circularity and sustainability itself requires a lot of collaboration across industries. How does Ingka Group IKEA work with suppliers, policymakers, and other stakeholders to drive effective systemic change?
Well, first of all, I would say, circularity is probably one of our biggest challenges because we've been a linear business like many other businesses have over the last 8 decades. So it is something that is highly complex, and therefore collaboration is absolutely key. It all starts, as I mentioned before, talking about my own background in the design and development process, the choice of the raw materials. And we're really striving towards making sure that we get as close as we can to 100% renewable or recycled materials. That has the double benefit, of course, from a resource scarcity point of view being much better, but also a big impact on our climate footprint, because around 50% of our climate footprint comes from the products themselves. So it's super important that we focus on this. And that means really collaborating well with suppliers. And that's where we can use our size and scale as a force for good. We can look at things like even renewable materials like wool, wood, cotton, and so on can be recycled as well. So the more recycled content we can get, even when it's renewable already, the better it is from a nature and climate point of view. So there's a big agenda there. And that requires collaboration for our inter-IKEA colleagues all the way back through the value chain with our suppliers. Then there's a big initiative to electrify the production with this supply chain as well. And there our Ingka Investments arm has also helped in some countries too, so that the production of our products is made using renewable energy. So there's a lot of work going on there. And then from a retail side, I mentioned waste earlier, being able to work with municipalities, advocacy on policy change as well, because some of the reasons that we're on 77 and not been able to move up higher yet is because sometimes in some countries it's cheaper to incinerate or go to landfill. So we need policy change to really make it attractive for waste sorting companies that come and collect our waste from our stores, and also to help consumers as well with their waste to be a more affordable option is the option to recycle. So that's an area where we take sort of policy change is a really big, important one. And then we're, of course, collaborating with our consumers. We have buyback. We've had that for many years. It started as a Black Friday campaign where we wanted to do a little bit of a Green Friday campaign probably 4 years ago now, maybe 5. Where we instead in November around that holiday time, around the Thanksgiving time, we said, instead of heavily discounting and driving more sales, we will take back your old furniture and resell it in what we call our as is or circular hubs area. So of course, that's fantastic collaboration with our customers. We've now taken that one further with testing a peer-to-peer platform in Madrid and Oslo. And then if that works well, we would like to expand that as well, connecting consumers to consumers in the local area to be able to buy and sell IKEA products. When they do it via us, they get the full assembly instructions, they get information about what the price was new, and we can really help there to provide information to make informed decisions. So yeah, and then we work with NGOs and so on as well to really look at how do we drive it with social impact too. So in Paris, we have a social entrepreneurship deal with an organization that helps to recycle all our cardboard from our packing materials. Also, we have deliveries by bike, cargo bike. Paris is one of the cities like London with ultra low congestion charges and so on. And also it takes cars and trucks off the road. So there's all sorts of fantastic collaborations, some at a very local level, and some at a macro level with governments, policymakers and other businesses.
Awesome. That's so amazing.
And it's so important. I just really wanted to say it's so important what you just highlighted across examples as well of collaborating across all levels. So at the really local level, policy level, academia, even things with like education and food, and all of those different points are so critical to kind of getting the message across.
We don't know all the answers ourselves. As big as we are, we definitely don't have all the answers. We're learning all the time. We make mistakes, we come across challenges. So this huge movement we have to make to a more sustainable future, we can only do if we all collaborate together.
Yeah.
Awesome. And one of our early guests on the podcast, Pierre Cook, if you're listening, Pierre, shout out to you, who was one of our early guests on the podcast. I remember her emphasizing the importance of educating future leaders on circularity. Yeah. And now my question to you now, you can see that we are a huge fan of the IKEA group for us to, and also honored to have had 2 chief sustainability officers come on the podcast. How can multinationals integrate sustainability education into both its workforce and also its consumer engagement strategies?
Yeah, so a big hi to Pia too, if she's listening. We've not caught up for a while, but we worked together when I was in one of my other roles when she was in this role. So fantastic that you've also talked to her as well. I mean, to be honest, I think we need to still educate our current leaders as well. Of course, our job is not done, and we should always be learning and listening and paying attention. And I think for me, the strength is in multi-generational dialogues. When I was last at Climate Week in New York, we talked quite a lot about that, actually, and making sure that the right people have the seats at the table for these bigger conversations. So we would like to feel that as a big brand, we can help support to get people to get a voice that might not have a voice. And one way we do that is we have a Young Leaders Forum. You'll see the letter from them in the annual report, where it's a group of amazing activists from all over the world with brilliant experience, very, very humbling when you read their CVs. And of course, they're a lot younger than us as a management team at Ingka Group, and they definitely hold us to account. They challenge us, they educate us a lot, and give us tips and things that we should be doing better, and also things we're doing well, and we take that really seriously. So I think doing more with young leaders is a fantastic opportunity for us to listen and learn. And then internally as well, we really like to have mentor programs. And again, it's not sort of the older managers telling younger people what to do. It's sort of really that sharing and learning and so on. Then we've done some specific climate training, because climate can be quite daunting and quite scientific, lots of acronyms. It's a bit of alphabet soup. So helping our leaders, particularly those that are spokespeople, our country managers around the world who are, like head of IKEA in Germany or UK or US or whatever, are also CSOs. And that was a deliberate move to help them to really take this seriously, that they need to be responsible for driving sustainability in their markets as well as the normal commercial metrics. So we did some climate training for them and also our wider management teams. 9 hours of training, bringing external speakers in, brilliant CEOs like the CEO from Patagonia, Johan Rockström, who's an eminent climate scientist as well, really informing and educating so we can make more balanced data-led decisions based on science. And then you mentioned for consumers, like I said before, I think our reach, size and scale is where we can really help to reach the many more and really show that sustainability doesn't have to be difficult. It can be truly affordable. It's got to be something in it for the customer. Health, well-being, saving money, of course, such an important topic for everybody around the world. So we really want to help with that.
I mean, it's incredible. I think the thing that I pulled out of that was that every country manager is also a CSO. Right. Yeah. So you've so deeply written into kind of the fabric of the organization that sustainability is as important as any other commercial metric, which I think is a really important way to kind of balance business growth and sustainability commitments, right? They're not two separate, parts. They're not two separate goals. It's kind of one, integrated vision, which is awesome.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's so important. I think that to land it, and it's an ongoing journey, of course, because our business leaders are very busy, so they've always got 100 things in their heads, just like most people have. So it's not a quick fix. It's an ongoing commitment, and then an ongoing commitment to also educate and learn. And we also know that for many co-workers, the reason to join IKEA is our sustainability credentials. And that's not just on climate, that's our human rights agenda, the work that we do with refugees, where we're one of the leaders with UNHCR on providing skills for employment, giving dignity back to refugees who've lost everything when they've had to move. So we take the human dimension and the social impact side really seriously as well, and it's been a delight to be a leader in that space and bring many other brands along with us. Over 500 companies have now joined that UNHCR program to help refugees find employment and get some of their life back. So I think that's something that the country CSOs also take seriously, the ownership of that in their countries too.
That's amazing. And as you said, we've had Pia on the, as Toby said, we've had Pia on the podcast as well, because we're really inspired is the right word. We're really, really inspired by kind of IKEA's commitment, strategy, and execution, right? It's one thing to make all these commitments, and we try as much as possible not to be political on the podcast. So I'm going to make this, I'm going to say this in as diplomatic a way as possible. But with like changes in administration where certain policies change and you see businesses that have made commitments kind of pulling out of those commitments, it kind of shows that those commitments are not something, or those decisions are not actual commitments, right? They're things that they had to do and they were forced to do, right? And I can't imagine a situation where, IKEA pulls out of, DEI initiatives, for example, or any social impact initiatives. And that's one of the reasons, we love kind of having, yourself and Pia on the podcast, because it's almost a teaching opportunity, a learning opportunity for other organizations to see that it is very possible to be very commercially successful, as well as committed to the kind of sustainability and social impact. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I mean, it's been proven around the world that more diverse teams and more diverse boards and management teams and co-workers actually are more successful businesses. So as you say, it's it makes good business sense, as well as being so ingrained in us as a humanistic company that really believes in the rights of everybody and so on as well. And then a source of pride for me as a working woman as well is the fact that we have 50-50 gender split in our management teams around the world, even in countries where that's not the norm, that we can be real sort of beacon of light there and inspire other companies to do the same too.
Incredible. On that note, as we kind of round up our questions, what message would you like to leave our listeners with, especially those who are kind of in the business transformation, sustainability, integration spaces, but also the consumers and their everyday lives? Like, how can they be better environmental citizens?
Yeah. Well, first of all, is to not feel guilty. I think if we take the consumer part first, I think it's not about beating yourself up, but it's also about realizing that you can have an impact, even if it can feel quite small and insignificant. Everybody making a difference when you scale it up then has a big impact. And one of my favorite quotes is from the Arctic explorer Robert Swan, where he says the greatest threat to our planet is the belief someone else will fix it. And that for me is a bit of my mantra. And of course, I am in the fortunate position where I'm working for a company that feels passionately and driving it, and we can have scale so we can be a force for good. But I also take that into my personal life as well. We've mentioned the plant-based meals. I think that's something that everybody can do without hopefully feeling guilty about it, because you don't have to suddenly switch over to only a vegetarian. Even when you speak to Johan Rockström, he sort of talks about the fact it's eating less red meat, not having to be really strict. reducing food waste, which means you save money as well. So that should be a no-brainer. And then really where you can, driving efficiency with energy savings in your home. We sell LED lights, rechargeable batteries, only those. You can't buy any others in our store, which means that at a reasonable price, of course, making it affordable for everybody. So that means people can switch out to things like that, where that's making a difference. Then cycling where you can, public transport, of course, all those sort of things. And looking at community engagement. We talked about collaboration from a business perspective, but hooking up with people in your local neighborhood that are driving change, amazing grassroots movements happening all over the world. So I'd say that's from a personal point of view. And then professionally, I think the learning for me, and well, actually for both those, the optimism and hope driven from action is super important. With everything going on in the world, it's easy to get into doom and gloom and feel is it worth it? And it's all going to be terrible and so on. But the fact that you can make a difference, that sense of agency, personal agency, and the fact that so many solutions do actually exist today should hopefully give people hope. We certainly remain optimistic with our approach. And then collaboration we've talked about, really making sure when you don't know the answers, not being afraid to ask for help and collaborate with those that then can help with the jigsaw puzzle to put the pieces together. And then really embedding the KPIs and metrics as well. What gets measured gets done in business. So if you drive the right metrics and you follow up, and you also enable and give the right tools and expertise to help people follow up those KPIs, then we see a real movement. It really needs to be embedded in the everyday work of the business and owned by everybody. I think that's the thing. Don't make sustainability separate on the side.
Ownership.
Yes.
Ownership is ownership. Everybody has to own these. Perfect. I like that. Ownership.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karen. You just made my closing very easy, which is one of the things I love about this podcast when I close the episode. But I just want to say that to everyone, as we navigate the path towards a sustainable future, let us remember that the true transformation that we want to see begins with intentional choices, both big or small. And the world at this point needs both leaders. The world needs collaborative action and our unwavering commitment to change. So each of us, everyone listening to this podcast, has the power to shape a greener, a more resilient future. And so let us take that step. Let us inspire others, and let us create this legacy that future generations will be proud of. And sustainability is not just a goal, it's a responsibility. And together, we can all make it a reality. So thank you so much, Karen, for coming on the podcast. We look forward to reading more about the amazing things that the Ingka Group are doing, and we'll definitely be watching and looking forward to more reports and more surveys that will be conducted by you and the group. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We wish you all the best in what you do and to drive change around the world and make the world a better place. So thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me as well. It's been a pleasure talking to you both.